नमस्कार एवरीवन। हाँ, अच्छा ठीक ठीक ठीक। Namaskar everyone, I am Dr. Rashmi welcoming you all to the third lecture of week 1, that is the geographical knowledge in Indian texts. So have you ever thought how did ancient Indian text describes geographical knowledge? Did you know that Indian texts contain rich geographical knowledge long before modern cartography and climatology? But how did they perceive the world around them? Today, we will explore how ancient Indian texts like Vedas, Puranas, and epics offer deep insights into geography, not just as a science but as a lived experience. We will begin by looking at how geography was understood in ancient texts, how landforms, rivers, and regions were described in ancient texts. Then we will explore early and Indian cartographic ideas like Jambudvipa and Saptadvipa, which shaped India's spatial imagination. Interestingly, many of these ideas had real world applications, whether in town planning, agriculture, or environmental conservation. Finally, we will reflect on the relevance of this traditional knowledge today and how it can inspire sustainable development and cultural geography. By the end of this discussion, you might look at geography not just as a subject but as a fascinating blend of science, culture, and philosophy. So let's dive in. Understanding Indian geographical knowledge. Indian knowledge system encompasses disciplines ranging from philosophy, astronomy, mathematics, medicine, linguistics, agriculture, architecture to environmental ethics. But it also represents a symphony of practical wisdom and spiritual insights. Now, the question is how did ancient Indian scholars conceptualize geography without modern tools like GPS, GIS, remote sensing? How they studied natural landscapes, how they studied rivers courses, mountains, and stars through direct observation over generations. Knowledge was preserved and passed down through slokas, hymns, and sutras in the Vedas and Puranas. Nakshatra, that is lunar mansions, used to track seasons, which we will see in the upcoming lectures. They also predicted monsoons without modern tools and directions as well. Concepts in Sulba Shastra sutras help measure distances and construct cities. And the Vishnu Purans describes Earth as a spherical object. Aryabhatta in 5th century CE correctly theorized that Earth rotates on its axis. The idea of a central landmass, that is Jambudvipa, surrounded by oceans, resembles early world map, Mount Meru as the cosmic axis, used as a reference for cardinal directions and celestial alignments. Rivers like the Saraswati and Ganga were considered divine and essential for sustenance. Sthapatya Veda also laid out the urban planning rules, that is, urban geography, the first impression about the urban geography, which was based on Vastu Shastra was based on cardinal directions and cosmic principles. Surya Siddhanta, that is also referred as the astronomy text, provided accurate measurements for Earth's circumference, planetary distances, and time cycles. Routes to sacred cities were detailed in texts like the Skand Puran and Mahabharata. Ancient Indian geography was a blend of empirical observation, astronomy, mathematics, and spiritual symbolism. Their knowledge was remarkably advanced, often aligning with modern scientific principles despite the absence of modern tools, which we will explore in the next slides. So, first, we will see the science of sacred architecture, how it is preserved in Sthapatya Veda, one of the important ancient texts of Indian knowledge system. So first, we will understand what is Sthapatya Veda. So, Sthapatya Veda, as name implies, the ancient Indian science of architecture, construction, and spatial design. It is a sub branch of the Atharva Veda and one of the Upavedas, offering deep insights into how space, form, and energy interact to create harmony between humans and their environment. Sthapitya Veda is basically, we can refer it as the mother text of Vastu Shastra, the Indian system of spatial planning and architectural design, which is still being explored in by the urban planners. Structures are designed in accordance with cosmic principles, including the directions that is called that is referred as dik in the ancient text, planetary influences, cardinal points, and the Panch Mahabhutas, that is five elements of life: earth, water, fire, air, and space. And the focus of Sthapatya Veda was on creating built environments that not only promote physical health but also mental peace and spiritual well being by aligning with natural laws. Detailed system of sacred geometry and precise measurements ensured the structural and energetic balance of temples, homes, and cities as well. The layout often follows the Vastu Purush Mandala, which we will see in the next slide how it was aligned with the uh, cosmic principles and nature's response. A grid that harmonizes energy flow and symbolizes cosmic order. Temples like Brihadeshwar and Konark were constructed with astronomical and energetic alignment. And if we see, as you can see in the slide, ancient principles, cities were designed based on climate, topography, and water availability, which is evident in Indus Valley civilization, that is Mohenjo-daro in Harappa. Urban planning of cities like Jaipur was also based on Sthapatya Veda's principles, and even step wells of India, forts, and even village homes were built to align with topography, light, and seasonal winds. Do you think that ancient urban planning principles can solve modern urban issues? Yes. For example, step wells uh, Bauli's rainwater harvesting and tank system ensured sustainable water use. For example, Chand Bauri in Rajasthan, urban water security scarcity can also be tackled by integrating rainwater harvesting and wastewater recycling, and cities were divided into functional zones like residential was in different zone, commercial, administrative, and sacred spaces were in different places. Helps in decongesting overcrowded cities and ensuring better traffic management. Now we will see the geographical insights from the Skand Puranas. The Skand Puranas is one of the largest Mahapuranas, is a treasure trove of sacred geography, blending mythology, pilgrimage, roots, and ecological wisdom. Now, the question is, how did the Skand Purana's geographical descriptions add travelers and rulers? The Skand Puranas provided detailed map of pilgrimage sites like Varanasi, Prayagraj, Rameshwaram, and Kedarnath. It mentions river courses like Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, and their significance, guiding travelers on the best routes. Describes various kingdoms, forests, mountains, and rivers as well. It provides a geopolitical map for rulers also, recognizes coastal ports and trade hubs. For example, Dwarka, Kanchipuram, added in economic planning. It describes forests, mineral rich areas, and water bodies, helping rulers to understand resource distribution. It also warns against deforestation and ecological imbalances, an early form of environmental conservation advice. Do you know that Narmada Parikrama, that is Ambulation route describes in Skand Purana preserves riparian ecosystem near rivers. Now we will see the concept of Jammu Dvipa and Saptadvipa, how it adds to geographical knowledge in ancient Indian knowledge system. So the Jammu Dvipa was considered, as you can see in the left or right visuals, how it was divided into the 9 varsas, 9 mountains, and major rivers uh, flowing. So Jammu Dvipa is considered the central and most important island continent in the traditional Indian cosmological view of the universe. It is mentioned extensively in Puranic texts, epics like Mahabharata, and Jain and Buddhist literature as well. The name Jambu comes from the Jambu, yeah, it means the Jamun tree, believed to grow at the center of this landmass near Mount Meru. Like, for example, the cosmic mountain. It is often associated with the Indian subcontinent or Bharatvarsha, though it also symbolizes a spiritual geography, not merely a physical one. Jambudvipa is said to be divided into 9 regions. You can see in the right visual, including Bharatvarsha, where humans are believed to live. Saptadvipa means 7 islands or 7 continents as per the Hindu cosmology. These are believed to be arranged in concentric circles. Look at the visual and locate it. The and arranged in concentric circle around Mount Meru, each separated by oceans made of different substances. So the 7 Dvipas are Jammu Dvipa, surrounded by a saltwater ocean, considered the center of the earthly realms. Plaksh Dvipa, surrounded by an ocean of sugarcane juice. Salmali Dvipa is surrounded by an ocean of wine. Kushdvipa, surrounded by an ocean of clarified butter, that is ghee. Kronch is surrounded by an ocean of curd, that is yogurt. Shakdvipa is surrounded by an ocean of milk. Pushkar is surrounded by an ocean of fresh water. Each Dvipa is said to have its own mountain, rivers, inhabitants, and rulers, symbolizing not just physical space but spiritual planes or realms of consciousness. The Saptadvipa model represents a spiritual cosmogram, a symbolic geography that shows how the material and the divine interact. This system reflects the cyclic nature of the cosmos, with each Dvipa representing a level of spiritual evolution. In some interpretation, it is also said that it maps macrocosmic space into microcosmic human consciousness, echoing the idea of the body as a temple. They are mentioned in not only the Skand Purana but also in Vishnu Purana, Bhagavad Purana, Mahabharata, and Ramayana. Jain Agams and Buddhist cosmological text also approves it. Scholars of indigenous knowledge system and cultural geography interpret Jambudvipa and Saptadvipa as encoded ecological knowledge, early forms of mapping sacred space. It is also an indicator of holistic worldview where geography, divinity, and morality are intertwined. Now, the question is, was Jambudvipa an early understanding of Pangaea? Jambudvipa, described in ancient Indian cosmology, is often considered the center of the world in texts like Puranas, Mahabharata, and Jain scriptures. Some scholars also draw parallels between Jambudvipa and Pangaea, the prehistoric supercontinent, due to similarity in the concept of single landmass. So, it not only highlights the depth of Indian cosmological thinking and how early scholars perceived geography in a way that, in some aspect, it also aligned with modern geological theories. Now we will see the river system and sacred geography, the connection between river system and sacred geography. Many pilgrimage sites, or you can say the tirthas, emerged along river banks. emphasizing purification rituals. For example, Haridwar, Varanasi, Prayagraj, rivers always served as a natural highways, making pilgrimage sites easily accessible in ancient times. Today, these routes are still followed during major yatras like Kumbh Mela along Ganga um, and Yamuna and Saraswati Sangam, Narmada Parikrama, an annual festival, for example, Pushkar Mela, Ganga Dashehra, continue reinforcing historical pilgrimage circuits. Pilgrims still visit ghats, temples, and ashrams established centuries ago, showing continuity in sacred geography. Governments restore ancient river pilgrimage routes like Namami Gange, Ramayana Circuit to promote spiritual tourism, improved riverfront development. For example, Varanasi Kasi Vishwanath corridor ensures smoother access for pilgrims. Ancient river geography still dictates sacred journeys, urban planning, and cultural practices, proving the enduring legacy of India's water based spiritual traditions. You can see the visuals showing the Saraswati River, how paleo channels of Saraswati rivers was discovered with the help of satellite image, preserving the ancient Indian texts. Now we will see the Kalpavriksha concept of Kalpavriksha and sacred ecology. What is the connection between the sacred ecology and Kalpavriksha, showing the roots of sacred geography? The Kalpavriksha, as name implies, wish-fulfilling tree, often referred in Indian mythology and sacred text, is much more than a symbol of divine abundance. It embodies deep-rooted environmental consciousness in Indian philosophical thought, described in ancient scriptures like the Puranas and Vedas. The Kalpavriksha was believed to grant all desires, but its symbolic power lies in representing the harmonious relationship between humans and nature. In a tradition, in a traditional ecological sense, Kalpavriksha stands as a metaphor for the interconnectedness of life, the bounty of nature, and the importance of preserving biodiversity. Just as the tree selflessly gives fruits, shelter, and shade, it was the basic concept. It reminds societies to practice sustainability, gratitude, and balance towards nature in their use of natural resources. The reverence given to trees like the banyan, peepal, and neem, it was also the concept of Panchvati, like Ashoka tree was also included in this, often locally identifies as earthly forms of Kalpavriksha, reflects this awareness and spiritual call to protect and respect ecological system. In today's context, Kalpavriksha inspires environmental stewardship, tree conservation, uh, and efforts of eco-spiritual movements. It continues to serve as a cultural and environmental icons that encourages communities to cherish their natural surroundings as sacred and life-sustaining. Have you ever thought, could ancient environmental wisdom help solve today's climate crisis? Absolutely. Ancient Indian environmental wisdom rooted in sustainability, conservation, and harmony with nature offers not only practical solution for modern climate challenges. Vedic text also describes earth as Bhumi Devi, means goddess earth, emphasizes sustainable living. Practices like sacred groves, Devrai, preserve biodiversity, so so that it can be modern equivalent to protect forests and urban green spaces. Some things like step wells, baulis, tanks, and reservoirs like Chand Bauri, Rani Ki Bav ensured efficient water storage can help in modern water harvesting. Traditional flood irrigation system like Ahar Pine in Bihar can add drought-prone regions today. Ancient texts promote not only rotation, mixed cropping, but also organic fertilizers like Panchgavya, which we will see in the next lectures, concept of Panchgavya, reducing chemical dependency. The Homa Agnihotra method was used for soil rejuvenation and pest control, aligning with modern eco farming. By not only reviving and integrating these traditional ecological insights, but also it can help the policymakers to bring the ancient wisdom into the modern climate solutions. It can not only combat climate change but also resource depletion and pollution. So the key lies in blending ancient wisdom with modern science for a resilient and sustainable future. Now, what was the geographical concept preserved in the Puranas? Description of continents, rivers, and mountains often match known historical landscape, as Puranas discusses celestial bodies, planetary motions, and even eclipse predictions. And Vishnu Puranas also states that Earth is spherical long before Western sciences accepted this. Puranas also describes nakshatras concept, moral and ethical relations, dharmic values, and societal norms. For example, the Vishnu Puranas describes Earth's spherical natures and the movement of celestial bodies. It is also preserved in that. The Puranas were not just scientific but also guided society through dharmic values. For example, these moral teachings can still be applied in today's world, especially in environmental conservation. Now we will see the contributions from the other ancient texts. Chakra Samhita describes, if we see, it is also a contribution in medical geography, like Chakra Samhita by Chakra describes internal medicines, diagnostics, and therapeutic methods. Sushruta Samhita by Sushrut discusses surgical techniques, which is again a contribution in medical geography. Modern connections, if we see the modern connections of it, many modern herbal medicine trace their origin to Ayurvedic texts. Aryabhat's Aryabhatiya in 499 BC CE proposed Earth rotates on its axis, also calculated pi and trigonometry concepts to understand the cosmological concepts, planetary motions, and eclipses without divine interventions. So, ancient Indian geography was not just about land, but about living in harmony with nature. Can we reconnect with this wisdom in the modern world? Thank you.